Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from the beautiful and warm Zanzibar out to the world. Everybody who's joining us globally today, welcome to this webinar about the construction material of the future, timber. My name is Tobias Dietzold. I am the Chief Commercial Officer of CPS here in Zanzibar. In October 2022, last year, CPS has launched the sales of the Burj Zanzibar, the tallest timber tower in the world. And yes, since then we've received a lot of international press and also many questions about this topic. And we are here today to discuss about this, to give you more information about this ambitious project, and we'll be discussing with industry experts about timber, its advantages, its risks in construction. Thank you very much for joining in. I would just like to address one thing. If you would like to share your questions, there's a Q&A section in Zoom. You will find a small button in the middle of your window. At the bottom says Q&A. You can post your questions there. We will have a Q&A session at the end. After the panel discussion, we are able to select a few questions, which I will then address to the panel. And also the whole webinar will be later on our YouTube channel in case you have missed something or the connection was not so good. So you can then later watch it again and share it also with other people. Yes, I would like to welcome our panel this evening, starting with Leander Moons. Leander is the lead architect for the Burj Zanzibar and founding partner of OMT Architects in Berlin. Leander, currently living with his family in New York, has vast experience in leading architectural offices in Europe, Africa, and North America. Leander has been already working very closely over the past years with CPS, and his designs are found throughout Fumba Town. Welcome very much, Leander. Thank you for joining us this morning in New York.
Thank you, Tobias. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to this session.
Yes, I would also, thank you, Leander. I would also like to welcome Wolfgang Hebenstreit. Wolfgang is the head of international sales for Binderholz Bausysteme from Austria. Binderholz is one of the globally leading manufacturers of engineered wood products such as glulam and cross-laminated timber. Beside its original headquarters in Austria, Binderholz operates over 60 other sites globally with over 6,000 employees. Wolfgang, thank you very much for joining us today, and we're looking forward to your expertise on this topic.
Thank you, Tobias. Happy to be here.
And I'm also welcoming Sebastian Dietzold, the CEO of CPS. CPS being the largest private urban developer in Tanzania and Zanzibar, and the developer behind Fumba Town and the Soul in Zanzibar. Sebastian, as by profession, actually a civil engineer, is driving the vision of the company to create homes that are strong, safe, and sustainable and accessible to all. So Sebastian, welcome very much. Thank you for taking the time. And I would like to actually hand over directly to you to give us a short introduction about what this ambitious project Burj Zanzibar is all about.
Thank you, Tobias. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here today, and I'm so excited to see so many of you joining us. We've seen this since we launched the Burj in Muscat last year, that there's a huge interest. Of course, there's a huge interest because it's something new and something that hasn't happened in Zanzibar, that hasn't happened in Tanzania, hasn't been built in this form. And of course, a completely new approach, new technology, new building material, actually not a new building material, that's what we'll discuss today, the oldest building material in the world, timber, being used. And all of this will, of course, creates a lot of questions, concerns, doubts, but actually in the end a lot of interest, and we're excited about that because that is actually the target of the board. We want to create awareness. We want to launch a discussion about the technology and an understanding of why we need to do things differently. My name is Sebastian. I'm the CEO of CPS, and I'm currently here in Fumbaton. Behind me, you see the board already, how it's going to be there very soon. And I would like to quickly take you through what the board is, and more so, why are we building such a high-rise building here in Zanzibar? The board is a world-class landmark, and it is supposed to be a world-class landmark because we want to create global awareness, but we want to especially create awareness here in Tanzania, in East Africa, for this amazing new construction technology and construction material, mass timber, offering an elegant and eminent lifestyle to progressive visionaries that share our ethos of responsible living for a sustainable future. There's a lot in that sentence. I'm going to unpack that a little bit during my presentation, because this is really why we are building the board. It is about sustainability. It is about responsibility. It's about the future of our children. It's about beautiful, modern, urban living. And it is about creating awareness and creating a global or an African discussion about this technology. We're living in times of big challenges. One is, of course, and a huge opportunity as well, many say, especially for Africa, urbanization. We live in times of climate change, which we are already experiencing here in Tanzania. And in places, especially like Zanzibar, the space of actually developing is very limited. And we have to develop it in a way that we can afford with the resources and the capacity we have. We can afford sustainable and green and state-of-the-art infrastructure at the same time. So it's not only about the houses, it is also about the surrounding environment, the infrastructure. I brought a quote here from Howard French from World Politics Review, and I think this quote really summarizes this challenge very nicely. Urbanization is now occurring faster and on a larger scale in Africa than anywhere else in human history. So these are strong words. So we are growing faster than any time before in human history. According to 1 million projection, for the end of the century, Africa will have the 3 largest cities in the world: Lagos in Nigeria, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. By 2100, each will be home to more than 60 million people. For us as developers, this might sound super exciting. I'm sure for Binderholz and others working in the sector, construction sector, this is of course a huge opportunity, a huge market. But I feel it's also a huge responsibility because we have to do things right. If we're growing so fast, and when we continue, and if we need to build a lot of houses, which we're going to need to accommodate all these people, we have to do it in a way that protects our planet. Today, around 38% of greenhouse gas emission is from construction and construction-related industries. 28% of that is actually caused by construction materials like cement, steel, and others. If we continue, just imagine, continue building millions of homes, which we're going to need. I just read last week in a report from Darberg that we have currently a backlog of 56 million homes in Africa. 56 million homes. Now imagine also all these people now coming from rural areas to urban cities, to urban centers, and now we're building everything with concrete and steel. It is just irresponsible. So here at CPS, we want to be trailblazing, we want impact, and for us, green is a currency. So we want to do things right. And this Burj Zanzibar is the signal, the landmark project to talk exactly about that. We have to change the way we do things, and we have to change them now, but we don't want to change them just in any way. We want to change them in the most sustainable lasting, durable, and of course, beautiful way. Because what we want to develop with our architects, with Leander and his team, is beautiful. And if you come to Fumba town, you will see that. Let me just quickly translate this into the context of Tanzania. What does it mean? We just had a census I think last summer it was finished. We did it. So Tanzania had a plus over the last 10 years of 16.8 million people. That means additional 1.68 million per year. With a household size of average 6 people, we need 280,000 new homes every year to accommodate that growth. I feel we have to do it the right way. And Zanzibar, which is a small archipelago, with 2 big islands or small islands at the end, with limited space, living mostly from tourism, from a nice blue economy, which is growing very fast. We grew with 600,000 people. That's more than 50% of the population 10 years ago. In 2012, we were 1.3 million, now 1.9 million people. That means we need at least 10,000 new homes, and that is not even considering the backlog we have. And in Zanzibar, additional challenges, of course, because we have the sea all around. So we have to be extremely cautious and careful how we use that space and have to think forward about how are we going to create homes for all these people growing, and the economy is growing super fast. Population is growing. We have a lot of migration, people coming to work to Zanzibar. We have now tech companies from all around the world coming, people in the industry, the tourism industry coming to live here. We have to provide housing for all these people in a responsible way. And we feel the only way to do that is with renewable, regrowing construction materials that are not emitting carbon dioxide, that are not destroying our planet, but they're sequestering carbon, they're storing carbon. Fumba town is supposed to be a big carbon storage one day. I think Leander and Wolfgang are going to tell you more about that. But at the same time, we have to build higher. We cannot afford an urban policy in Zanzibar is clearly at least 4 stories, because we don't have the space of single-story houses. We don't have the space to accommodate all these people in single or 2 and 2-story houses. We have to go higher. And Fumba as a peninsula has been designed as a development zone for industrial, residential, housing, and trade development for Zanzibar. We have very little tourism on the peninsula, tourism areas in the north, in the west, in the east. So this is the place that has to grow, and we have to become denser. Very shortly, let me tell you a little bit about the Burj. Why should somebody now invest into the Burj? Why should somebody buy into a high-rise tower made from timber, engineered timber, right? Cross-laminated timber, mass timber, coming at the moment still from Austria. Why should somebody invest into that? It is about supporting a global landmark that will promote a new responsible way to build. We want to change and create acceptance in the population here in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, globally, for this new way of construction. It is already very far, and I'm sure Wolfgang will tell you more, in Europe, in the US, in Australia, and many other areas in the world. A lot of modern buildings are already being built with this technology. Many building policies and regulations already are recommending or are enforcing this technology because of climate change and because of durability. We want to be on the forefront of this development here in Tanzania, in Africa, bringing this new technology in, and the Burj is supposed to advertise this technology. It is extremely precise. Computer engineered timber guarantees an unseen durability and living quality. We'll show you more later. We're already building with this technology here in Fumba town. And it's just so beautiful. It's so precise. It's so accurate. And let me tell you one thing. We live in an area here. I'm outside. It's around 30 degrees right now. It's quite hot most of the time of the year. And we're surrounding us usually with concrete. And you know, the biggest disadvantage of concrete, besides emitting a lot of carbon dioxide, is that concrete heats up and stores heat and then releases that heat at night. And we're trying to cool our bedrooms down with fans and ACs. While timber, and the Burj is going to be built of mass timber, thick, 450, 500 millimeters partially, is one of the best heat insulators we know. If you put something hot on your table for dinner, you're putting a piece of wood underneath because it insulates the heat. So timber is a no-brainer, especially for these areas where it's very, very hot. Of course, same counts for cold. The Burj is going to be fully serviced. It will care for all you need. So this is really living fully pampered in Zanzibar, in Fumba town, all the services, from concierge services to room service, whatever you want is going to be available. There's going to be gyms, there's going to be cafes, shops, a beautiful roof terrace, and of course, a lot of things for your relaxation. You will have a high appreciation of value to the high demand of residential units and the very limited space in Zanzibar, right? Everybody wants to come and live in Zanzibar. We just had a small show on a German TV station last a few days ago, I think on Saturday. And you cannot imagine, everybody has the interest of living in a beautiful space where it's warm, it's beautiful, people are more relaxed, and maybe it's also more affordable for some people to live here. So there's a huge demand also from outside, but also from within, from our growing population and the growing economy in Tanzania and Zanzibar. The Burj is also built and designed and planned already from scratch to international building standards and fulfilling the highest requirements for fire life and safety. There's a lot we can talk about that. I think we're going to talk about that later. Questions are coming, of course. Will it burn down, right? We're going to answer that question and how dangerous it is. I can just tell you now, the tower as it is built now, the Burj, can be built in other places in the world the same way because it fulfills all these criteria to international standards. Could be built in London, could be built in Berlin, most probably also New York. I don't think they have a beautiful tower like this yet, Leander. You're going to answer that question. But it can be built in any place, and it's going to be one of the safest homes you ever had. And of course, we're on a peninsula close to the sea, right? The tower is going to be built around 150 meters from the sea. So you're going to have uncompromised sea view all around. And it's going to be absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful modern architecture. Our architects from OMT under the lead of Leander have done an amazing job to create something that is not just common, but it's beautiful. It's extremely attractive and competitive in pricing. I'll show you that in a moment, right? So at the moment to invest into this, while we experienced, what we've done in Fumba so far, people who've invested with us 2, 3, 4 years ago, appreciated already 50 to 100, some even more, 100%. They doubled the value of the properties. This is the time, new building, new technology coming, a beautiful Burj for you to invest. And of course, you're going to invest with the developer where everything starts with the heart. For us at CPS, everything starts with the heart. We are super passionate because we love what we do. We love the Burj and we think it's the right thing to do. We're pushing this with all we have. And we want you to join this journey and to start investing with us in this global landmark, because not only are you going to have a beautiful apartment and a very attractive investment, but you, together with us, you're advertising a responsible, sustainable technology that will help to reduce the climate effects of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is something for us, for our future, an investment for our children, an investment to save our planet. Let's change the way we do things. But I tell you, looking at what we see around the world, we have to change things now. And that's why the Burj has and will come to Zanzibar now. Very shortly, some views, you're going to see a lot of that on our website. So it has beautiful, stunning sea views all around. All the apartments have a small balcony, so you can step out, feel the breeze, have the beautiful sea breeze in your nose. Then fully serviced, concierge service, there's everything you need at your doorstep. You're going to feel like living in a beautiful hotel. It is highly durable. You might not believe, but timber is the most durable building material we have. And it has beautiful comfort. It has a beautiful scent. It is very cool. It will just give you such a nice feeling of living in Japan. The Wood Society in Japan is studying and believing that living in a timber building actually supports the well-being of human beings, supports the well-being. And trust me, we've done the experience. I've been in timber houses in South Africa and also in Austria and Germany. It is just beautiful. And we're building them, of course, here in Zanzibar now already. So you can come in Fumba and experience that. It's just amazing. There's going to be a private roof garden with all the amenities for the restaurant, for the residents of the house. You're going to have your pool there. You're going to have the roof garden, nice views. You can relax, live, work in this amazing place in Zanzibar, in Fumba town. And just give you a feeling how does it look and feel. It's going to be, this is a finished unit. I think this is the US, very similar technology. This is how it looks like. So it's just going to be absolutely stunning. And you're experiencing something beautiful. So it is the tallest hybrid timber tower in the world today. It might be that other planners and companies will come up because there's a huge competition around the planet at the moment. Who has the highest timber tower, right? But as of today, if it would be there today, it would be the highest timber tower in the world. We're talking about 28 floors, 95 meters high, fully serviced and secured for your well-being, private roof garden, amenities for residents, highly durable, right? Timber is the oldest buildings in the world are all made from timber. Green, responsible construction technology. Investing in this tower is investing into a green technology that will be a landmark development, advertising a building technology that we have to implement now. Designed to European American standards. This is still produced in Austria by Binderholz, with the fantastic engineering team and the support of Wolfgang and all these people working at Binderholz, and it's assembled in Zanzibar. I can tell you, not because it's a secret, but our target is, of course, to work with companies like Sawhill and Green Resources here in Tanzania, or TFS and others who are in sustainable forestry, source the timber here in Tanzania, in East Africa, and then process it to the same engineered wood products as we have to import them today from Austria. So in the future, the story is going to be a local story. And we have, of course, invited Binderholz to be part of that story already. So this is Africa. We have the timber, fast-growing timber here in huge quantities, sustainably managed already today by companies, for instance, like Sawhill under Green Resources and others who are producing enough timber here in Tanzania. And we're not talking about deforestation, right? I think I'm going to one of the questions later. We're talking about forestry, where when you cut, you regrow, and you replant, and you regrow. It's like agriculture. It's like a crop. Global architectural landmark already today. BBC, all the big market magazines, even the Times in December, in the London Times wrote about this tower. It is creating global awareness. We're talking about this in February in Cape Town at the Wood Conference. I think there's a big conference in Portland in the US. The Burj is everywhere. If you have an apartment in the Burj, it's going to be a status symbol. People will know what you have. Stunning sea views. And now let me very quickly go through the prices. So you can be part of this story starting at only $79,900. That's the price for a studio apartment in a global landmark with sustainable, durable construction technology in beautiful Zanzibar. Now, if this is not amazing, then I don't know what is amazing. This is a beautiful price. Then we have one bedroom starting at less than $100,000 at $99,900. Two bedrooms, $219,000. One bedroom penthouse, $443,800. And our most luxurious units, the two bedroom penthouse is starting at $599,000, $600,000. A great opportunity for whoever is interested to join this journey, to change the way we build. You're welcome to join us here at CPS. And of course, I can just recommend, don't miss this chance. Book your Burj Zanzibar apartment now. Call us, get in touch with our team. We are here for you. Together, we want to do something new. Together, we want to do something responsible. And together, we want to develop something extremely beautiful. Thank you very much. And we'll talk more later. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian, for this very passionate presentation. We feel that CPS is putting its full heart into this project. Obviously, I am also part of it. So we love what we do and we want to be trailblazing, and we do everything what we do with the heart. But obviously, we're also working with international experts on this. This is not a sole CPS project. Leander, you have designed with your team the highest timber tower in the world, the Burj Zanzibar. What motivated you to this project, and what have been also the challenges you faced so far?
I think for a project like this, which of course is a landmark and a pioneering project in its context, that context is key. Now we have been working with timber projects over the past years, almost more than a decade now, in Fumba town to develop this new way of constructing, to also enable local people to understand how to build with this material. And it's only within that context that we can set up a pioneering project like the Burj Zanzibar is, because we first have to enable and create that local empowerment and knowledge on site, so that we can also then be sure that when we design this project that we can implement it locally, which of course is the goal of the exercise. We can create a project everywhere, but building it is where the actual challenge starts. And that comes to your second question. The biggest challenge we're actually facing is not the timber portion of the building, it's the conventional portion of the building, because and Sebastian already mentioned that in his presentation, timber is very precise. We're talking about tolerances in millimeters, so this comes all prefabricated on the site, and it's very simple to build, like Legos. You just put it together. Concrete, conventional structural measures are way more complicated. They're wet applications, they need cast work, they need reinforcement, all needs to be done on site, and it's far less precise. By concrete, we're talking about centimeters, as where by timber, we're talking about millimeters. So it's a factor 10 less precise to build in conventional ways. And that, of course, is the big challenge. How do we create a good connection between conventional structure and timber structure? Now, your question might be, why do we use still conventional structure? This is to also include fire life safety concerns. Of course, you can technically build a complete timber building already. That's done in Norway and Switzerland, in other countries where authorities have advanced knowledge and experience with timber buildings. In this context, we don't have that knowledge by the authorities just yet. So we are building a conventional core to provide the right kind of layout for authorities to approve, and then we build our timber structure around that to really combine the best of both worlds. And yeah, we're looking really forward to make that happen, and that was also what we're testing with our smaller projects, seeing how local companies, international companies work together. So we're testing in small already. That's what we want to do in big for the Burj.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Leander. Wolfgang, why is timber so attractive? What is the advantages actually compared to conventional brick, concrete, steel construction? Binderholz, with I think over 60 years experience in that field, can you shed some light on that?
I think in general, everyone needs to find his own advantage within building in timber, because for some people it's an advantage, for some people the same point is a disadvantage. I can tell you my personal advantages in building with timber. I think the first one is, first of all, the construction speed that you get within this material. The second one, already mentioned by Sebastian and Leander, is the certainty in details, like I would call them. So we know how the detail will look like, we know where we need a hole. It's not done on site, it's done previously. This brings me to my third point, which is the high level of prefabrication. So basically the aim is to do the big part in the factory and just the assembly on site. And all those 3 points together make a fourth very important point from my side, and that's the certainty in price. As I know upfront what I'm going to do, I also know how much it costs. And nevertheless, I think the fifth and sixth point is I get a certain quality in living within timber. Here, for some people, for sure, it will be a disadvantage. Most people stayed once in a timber building, they will never change. Timber is a warm material, not a cold material. The sixth point, you can also do with other construction building materials, let's say, but from my personal point of view, as you see in my background, timber always looks way nicer. That's why we also have in the Burj a big part of visible timber. And the last one is the environment and sustainability point. I've seen a lot of Q&A already related to this point, and it brings me also to the second question. I will go into...
Yes, exactly. Just for the rest of the audience who might not be able to see those questions, we had them already in advance as well. Obviously, the question about sustainability is often asked. So saying like, yes, when you're talking about timber construction, you're talking about sustainability, but actually we're cutting down our forests. Are we not actually destroying our environment by cutting down our forests and saying the future of construction is from timber? Wolfgang, please help us in that with the answer to that.
I will go a very small step back, Tobias, if you don't mind. I will just show the main differences between wood and, in this case, it is concrete. Official from 2011. I will not go in detail into the numbers because everyone may have his own numbers and is better in one number or worse in another number. I think the first one is what generally nobody is mentioning, but is a very important point, is the water consumption between the building materials. So how much water you need per cubic meter to build in wood and how much you need to build in concrete. Water over a long time, if we continue like this, it will be the new gold because a lot of countries are running out of water.
Yes, Wolfgang, just to interrupt here, for those who don't speak German, the third column is the wood construction, and then column after that is the concrete steel construction. Yeah, so what the last row which Wolfgang had just marked is the consumption of water. So in wood you would consume 0.71 cubic meters of water during the construction compared to concrete 5.74 cubic meters.
Thank you, Tobias. Sorry for not mentioning. Exactly, blue line is the water consumption. The yellow one is the non-renewable energy you need to use for building it up. Even if I take renewable energy, I need 30% to do the same thing in wood, as an example. The next one everyone is talking about is the CO2. Also here, for sure, numbers can be changed, but nevertheless, there will be a certain difference. The last one, as I have it here, is the deforestation, which brings me now to the second question asked from Tobias. For sure here, compared to concrete, I do not have any deforestation. But also doing it correctly in wood, I do not have real deforestation. Because here, I will repeat the question maybe once. How environmentally friendly and sustainable is timber really? Are we not cutting down our forests and adding to the global problem of climate change? And this doesn't depend on timber itself. This depends on how we treat our forests. And for sure there, I will now respond from a European side. Not all countries are managed in the same way, even not through Europe, but main Europe is managed quite similar. That's a picture, or let's say a graph of the forest surface in Europe. That's the development of the forest in Europe. So that was million of hectares, 1990 of forest. That's 2015. And that's based on the country, on the surface of the country, how much forest we have compared to the total forest. So for example, if I take total Europe, we have 42%. If I go into the numbers in detail, between 1990 and 2015, forest has grown by 21 million hectares. That's 60% of Germany or 5 times Switzerland. If I go now a little bit more in detail, for example, here in Austria, that's 1961 Austria, percentage of forest in Austria based on the total surface of Austria, that's 2021. And here you see the differences. The gray one is how much it's growing, and the red one is how much we are cutting to use the material. How is this possible? That's what I tried to set shortly up from. It depends how the forest is treated. So, for example, in Austria, the law is like I took here the picture is from the 1st January of 1853, where they implemented the Forstgesetz, so the forestry law, how you need to treat the forest. And that's the reason why still now, 2023, we have 29.2 million, I put now cubic meter because the other word is, it's easier for understanding. In Austria, we have 29.2 million cubic meter growing every year. And we are harvesting 2.6 million cubic. So we're still getting every year more forest than we are using. Why this? Because we have the correct forest treatment. And that's the main point to speak about from my point of view. Thanks.
Yes, so thank you very much, Wolfgang. It's about sustainable forestry, making sure that the forests are regrowing faster than we're actually harvesting. So we are actually considering wood or timber as a crop, which we have to make sure that it grows or that it's growing the total area of forest compared to what we're harvesting and using for construction. Leander, quickly back to you. I mean, from an architectural point of view, timber is being announced to be more and more the construction material of the future. We know that timber is actually a quite ancient construction material, but could you maybe from an architectural point of view explain again why is it such an interesting building material, beside obviously its sustainability from an architectural point of view?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to connect here. Of course, it all comes down to sustainability also in terms of architecture. We want to do something about like Sebastian and Wolfgang mentioned, which is better for our world. And building with timber is basically creating a free storage facility for carbon. So we get that as an add-on to the building space we create, which in a way is a no-brainer, like when we think about our climate and the way we can all contribute to making the construction energy more sustainable. Sebastian mentioned 38% of our carbon emissions come from the construction industry. So there's is where we need to start. In addition to that, of course, timber is a great material to work with in terms of its architecture. We don't need additional cladding for certain areas because we can use the timber and expose it. It has this warm and appealing feel. It works already as an insulating material, both against heat and cold. That's also one of the reasons why we can or could create the tower as it looks like. We don't have this issues with building with timber with thermal bridges as we would have either in concrete in a cold climate or in a warm climate. So therefore also our architectural language is actually enhanced with additional possibilities, creating the opportunity to make like this facade as we designed for the Burj. So that are all elements contributing to the future, to making use of timber in the future as a sustainable building material. And of course, that all comes with the benefits of faster construction, of more also quality-wise better construction, because we can detail all these details before we can test them in the factory before they come on the construction site, so we know everything will fit, and therefore we also get a much higher quality standard on the interior of the apartment. And lastly, of course, and that has been mentioned as well, is that like numerous studies have shown that living in a natural context with natural materials is more healthy. So in the end, building with a natural material, a tree we can regrow. So this is provided to us by nature, as where steel and concrete, we need to process that. A lot of chemicals involved in that process. Of course, also in engineered timber, there is some chemical, like some glue and so on involved, but the impact and the size of that chemicals is far less than by conventional structures. And I think that really all together combined makes timber our building material of the future, and especially in Africa because of like the challenge we have ahead of us, needing to provide so much housing in a very short time. But to put that in numbers, we basically have to build everything what is built in the US in the next 80 years in Africa twice. So that's an enormous challenge.
Yes, the challenge is massive. We know about that. Sebastian also explained about that. But I would like to, before we go back to the big picture, Leander, I would like to really address again, and this mainly to you, but maybe even Wolfgang can answer or join in a little bit. Sebastian has touched on it. Major concern, obviously, when it comes to timber for many people is the fire life safety. People know timber as a quick burning material. Now we are building here the highest timber tower, residential tower in the world. Can you address this concern, which is surely not a major concern out there for many of us?
Yeah, no, I will start with that, Wolfgang. I might hand over when it comes to technical later to you. But of course, timber is a combustible material. At the same time, when a forest catches fire, the trees survive, they grow, or some trees even grow better after a forest fire. And this is because timber, like as none of like the conventional building materials, has the ability to protect its inside. When it burns, the outside chars and it protects the inside. We try to do similar things, of course, with steel, where we apply a fire retardant to the outside, a chemical solution which binds itself to the steel, making it impossible to recycle and reuse. We don't have these kind of issues with timber because that's provided by the timber itself already. So key is, of course, then when we design a building to take that into account, to create dimensions for like load-bearing elements, which account for like what is the charring depth. So which part of a column will burn away, which part of a ceiling will burn away when there would be a fire. And we can, of course, never say there is not going to be a fire, but we have enhanced technologies. We have the best consultants who do a lot of research on timber in fire situations on this project. They also help the governments to rewrite their coding requirements to include fire life safety for timber buildings. So we have all the knowledge on board, and there's a lot of technical means we can implement. And of course, that goes hand in hand with what is the look and feel and the architecture in the end we want to create. But all of that is reviewed to an extensive amount. And then what happens at the end is that when we know this is how we're going to build it, this is what we're going to enclose, and this is what we leave open, we actually make a calculation of what happens when one apartment within the building catches fire. And of course, again, context comes into play. Can we rely on the fire brigade in Zanzibar? Rather not. It might take a lot longer to extinguish a fire in Zanzibar than it does in Austria. So all these things need to be taken into account. But in the end, it doesn't matter if that's like a concrete building or a timber building. The building needs to perform in a similar way when there's a fire. The same damage would occur on a concrete building as on the timber building. And of course, that needs to be restored, but both buildings will not collapse. And that's, of course, why there is international coding to allow for that. So I think timber is a very safe, maybe even safer, like some people say, than steel building material. Steel, when it gets hot, it will start to bend and it can collapse. Timber doesn't lose its strength, even not under high temperature, because of this charring relation. And of course, when we engineer timber, and Wolfgang, maybe there you can take over, there's a couple of other things like delamination and so on is very technical to also take into account. But in general, timber is not like a less performing building material than conventional structure. On the contrary, I would say.
Wolfgang, you want to add?
I think Leander did a perfect sum up. I could, if someone is interested, answer more in detail, but that's then very technical, and I think will quite explode around. So if someone is interested in very technical details about the fire, I'm happy to answer them. There has been performed several compartment tests, which means that we've built up a complete building and burned it down to get the rate of the self-burning self-out-burning effect. So we have done, I think we as a company has done more than 320 fire tests. So, but too technical for this round, I have the fear.
Yes, and I think to summarize, this is repeating a point which also Sebastian brought already in this presentation. If we were to build the Burj anywhere in the world, it is to international standards and to international building codes. So we could build the same building in Europe because it withholds or it is compliant with fire life safety regulations as we have them, for example, in Europe or in Northern America. And I think that says already a lot. Sebastian, maybe a little bit back to you with one question, because it's I think we've heard the passion about CPS and pushing timber. Some could still say, yes, it would be much easier to produce a lot of units and also affordable units in a conventional construction method. Can you maybe in one or two sentences again explain why is CPS really pushing so much for this construction technology, while others would be a lot easier, and especially also when it comes to sales, a lot easier to explain to a bigger audience in Tanzania and Zanzibar? You're muted.
Thank you, Tobias. I think this is a very good question. The very clear answer is that if CPS, our company, would just be profit oriented, if we would just be running a company on shareholder value, we would most probably not do this. But as I said already before, because at the moment timber construction is more complex, it's new in this context of high-rise buildings, but also here in the market. We unfortunately still have to import a lot of the mass timber from Europe, as there's no manufacturing of mass timber, engineered timber in Tanzania yet. Of course, this in short term, I saw the questions, this adds to the emission of carbon because of the transport, which of course emits carbon dioxide, but understand that this is, we are the first mover of this technology here in East Africa, and the target is to have a production of the material in East Africa, in Tanzania, hopefully, and with that then also reduce the transport costs. So we are consciously investing into this new technology because we believe strongly it is the right thing to do. And of course, we think it is so much more beautiful. It's like Wolfgang said, once you've been living or been putting a step into a timber building, you don't want to live in anything else anymore. And this is what happened to me as well when I was in the first CLT show house in Cape Town a couple of years ago. Me and my wife, we said the only house we'll ever buy must be a CLT house. And now we have it here in Fumba. You're welcome to come and see the amazing Visazi homes we are building at the moment, where everything, the walls, the ceilings, the staircases made out of cross-laminated timber, mass timber, and it's just absolutely beautiful. But yes, building in concrete and steel would be cheaper at the moment still. It would be easier because that's what people are used to. But we believe the right thing to do is to bring this new technology, because continuing the way we do things on this planet today, we will not have a future, and it's not the responsible thing to do. Looking at the future of our children, we have to change the way we do things. We have to do it now. We're doing it in the car industry, changing from diesel and petrol cars to electrical cars. We're changing our energy supply to renewable energy, and we surely have to change the way we build, as we are nearly responsible for half of the global greenhouse gas emission. So, and CPS strongly believes in our planet. For us, green is a currency, and that's why we're doing this, and we're building the Burj as a landmark project to promote this technology.
Thank you very much. Let me please, before I ask my last question to Leander and Wolfgang and Sebastian, ask you maybe a little bit provocating question. CPS with Fumba Town have been quite successful. We just hit 1,000 homes sold. We've handed over, I think, over 500 homes already to their owners, with all the challenges we had in the environment in Zanzibar. But building a high-rise building 96 meters is surely something different. Why are you confident that this is achievable by CPS and also achievable doing something like that in Zanzibar?
The clear answer is the question back, why not in Zanzibar, right? I mean, we have a beautiful country, we have a government with very clear building policies here, which we are working on fulfilling, and we have a fantastic team of engineers from Binderholz in Austria, around Leander and his architects, from Ignis, Fire Life Safety in Zurich in Switzerland, who are the absolute experts globally on high-rise safety. And I'm sure we should maybe repeat a webinar just concentrating on the fact on the fire life safety issue. We have amazing structural engineers with Knippels and Habich in Stuttgart in Germany and New York. So we are surrounded by a team Sutari for the MEP. We are surrounded by let's say the most knowledgeable experts in this field globally, who have put their passion into this project to develop something extraordinary here in Zanzibar and Tanzania to promote this technology for Africa, for the world. And I'm highly confident that we can do that. The Burj is selling already extremely well. We're planning to start the detailed design phase summer this year, and hopefully then to break ground by mid next year and having this tower up very, very soon. But whoever wants to experience the technology is already invited to come and see. We have the Visazi homes here. We have beautiful Moyoni homes. And of course, we have the Volkshaus, and Thomas is in the call, I think, a very experienced contractor here in Zanzibar, experienced and specialized on timber construction, who have joined with us here in Fumba and are building a lot of our timber homes already. So yes, and of course, in the end, Tobias, we have the most fantastic clients in more than 62 countries around the world who believe in this and who believe together with us that we have to do things different and we have to do the right thing.
Yes, thank you very much, Sebastian. You're absolutely right. Our clients are amazing and have been supporting us since the beginning, and they really believe in what we're doing, and that green is also a currency for them, not only for us as developer. Thank you very much. Leander, Wolfgang, you were just recently in Zanzibar, in Fumba, end of last year, where we started the assembly of the first complete mass timber houses, the Visazi project designed by Leander, CLT produced by Binder in Austria. You have come to inspect the site and the assembly of the first walls. From your perspective, and I think that's important also for our audience to hear from New York, from Europe, do you feel this is really the right technology for what we're doing here, for our vision? Do you, how confident are you about this ambitious project, Burj Zanzibar in Fumba Town in Zanzibar? Maybe Wolfgang, I give you the first word, and then Leander.
Absolutely, yes, thanks. And I think instead of answering with a long list why everything will go good, I will show you the picture of the team that built up the Visazi buildings. And you see it in the faces, the motivation. And if everyone is motivated, in Austria we say you can travel through mountains. And that's the picture. Why this picture I'm showing you? Here in agreement, also based on the Burj, we said we will develop together this building. We will send one of our supervisors there. And he was predicted to arrive, I think, 8 in the morning. But due to some flight delays, he just arrived at 10:30. And I was there for some other reasons. So in the morning, we decided that I will start with the guys building up the first walls. And I remember his face when he arrived and then 10:30 on the building site, super surprised, because that was the first picture that he took. He was so surprised. He said, I thought I need to explain everything. And there will be maybe one panel mounted. And in the end, half of the ground floor was mounted. And I can show you a second picture. And that was the picture after 2.5 days, if I'm not wrong. So I would say that answers quite, sorry, the right pictures after 2.5 days. That one is more recently, but I think that basically answers the questions. So if everyone is motivated, you can do everything. And for sure, the design team behind is important. But I think, like mentioned from Sebastian already, we have a very large and very experienced team within this project.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, thank you, Wolfgang. Is I think the great benefit we have in the context is that we have with Volkshaus a local contractor with a lot of experience on how to build with timber, experience which is continuously growing through the different projects. But we of course try to do from our architectural point of view is to see where are similarities, how can we make things like in small already to test what we want to do in big. And that also allows us to be more confident that, when it works in small, you can just scale it up. The connection stays the same, the way of applying it is the same. So like the team on site who will do the assembly, they know exactly what they're doing. They just do it on the 23rd floor instead of on the 3rd floor. And that, of course, is key to the success of a project. Also, we should not forget that, yes, we are currently, when we relate to other projects, the highest, but with a fine margin, I would say. Currently, the highest, I think, is 86 meters. So we're just a little above that, and we are building our timber building on top of a concrete base, which they don't have. So if you compare the timber to timber, we're probably similar to the others. And also, therefore, this is not something which has not been done before. You can even go a lot further. I mentioned before in Norway there are buildings of 80 meters with also a mass timber core. There's no more conventional structure. So that is the next step, of course. And we hope that we get to that next step soon, when we can also provide, of course, the local authorities, the local contractors, everybody involved in Zanzibar, in Tanzania, and around the world with this project, the experience to then apply that to a magnitude of projects all around the world, and especially also, of course, in the region. Wolfgang showed before a chart for Europe. 42%, I think, was the coverage. For example, a country like Tanzania, I think, has 52 or even more percent of forest coverage. So we have a huge potential resource we can use locally, and we have to raise the awareness that we can build in timber. We can do that in this context to also then start using that resource to really challenge the needs of the African continent with local materials, not shipping the steel from outside, not shipping the timber from outside, but eventually doing it all in the local context by local people, and also add the value there where we create these projects.
Yes, thank you, and I think that is also something which Sebastian has not yet touched. He's got also a big presentation on the circular economy of Tanzania, which I think would go too far for today, but definitely for us, the big the big vision is in the end to create the value within the country, especially with these massive projects which we're doing here. They have to have an impact in the country, and all the FDI which we're getting into the country should mainly remain here and circulate in the economy here. Thank you very much, my panels. I have still a few questions from the audience. I'm going to pick a few. We are already over an hour in the webinar, so we're not going to. I'm not going to drag this too long. But a few questions. Leander, you've mentioned already, but maybe you can name them again. The question was, what are similar projects worldwide using timber in a similar size? Burj is definitely not the first one. Can you name 2, 3 where people can really then also at home look them up and see what has been done so far, and that this is not the first in the world?
No, I think currently the highest one, to my knowledge, Sebastian mentioned it, there's a competition and it goes very quickly. I think currently it's actually not on this chart, is the Ascent residential tower in Milwaukee here in the US. So that surpassed what was for a long time the highest tower is actually this Mjøstarnet. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that's a building in Norway. And the great thing about that tower is really that it's completely mass timber, so there's no conventional core in that building. Most of the other projects, like also here, the Ho-Ho, which is a residential combined with a hotel tower in Vienna, and also Hout in Amsterdam, another residential tower, they combine conventional with timber technologies. So for me, like currently, like the most standout project is definitely, like when we talk about heights and timber, is the Mjøstarnet, because it's this complete mass timber approach. But I'm also sure that Wolfgang knows from the inside already about more projects they are working on, and I think it's not only about, you know, the height. A lot of projects also are just huge in size, maybe more landscapers than skyscrapers, and they are using timber as well. So it's really up and coming in a lot of regions. Africa is still, you know, we are pioneering in that context, but when you see production starting in South Africa as well, you see that there starts to become a market also on the African continent. And I think with our projects we can contribute to that. And then, you know, like the 3 biggest cities will be in Africa. I'm sure when we talk in 20 years, we'll also talk about all these highest timber buildings in Africa.
Fantastic, thank you. Maybe one more concern which we get quite often is durability. How durable is actually construction with timber, especially also in a very humid climate, which Zanzibar has. Can maybe Wolfgang or even Sebastian say a few words on that?
I can start. Yeah, I think, like Sebastian said initially, wood is the oldest building material. The oldest homes in wood, I think they are in Japan, and they are 4,200 years old. So to say, it's an endless material. It just needs to be treated in the correct way. And that, I would say, it's quite independent from the climate. In a high-rise building, or let's say over the ground, you should not build tunnels in wood. They will not survive so long, or depending also on the wood species you use, maybe you can have another outcome. But generally overground, if it's built correctly, it will survive, or it will stay forever, if you want to call it like this. Mainly the wood buildings, in case they have problems because of another material that was not built correctly, but not of the material itself.
I can add maybe before you go into that, maybe you can also elaborate a little bit on moisture and water, because I think that is the biggest issue when it comes to timber construction. Maybe you can add a little bit on that as well, Sebastian, when you're adding on what Wolfgang had said before.
Yes, in terms of durability, when I was a kid, I grew up in Germany. In Germany, we call them Fachwerkhäuser, the timber frame houses as well. Usually, where the timber space was then filled with clay and straw in between the beams and the columns. And many of the ceilings also in Germany, in old houses from the beginning of last century, all the ceilings are still Holzbalkendecken or the timber ceilings, right? And then on top of the ceiling, you typically have ash, and then you have the board. So, and today, when they renovate houses in Europe and Germany, and they take out these old oak beams, which maybe are 200, 300, 400 years old, right? They resell them for huge amounts of money because they're still fine, right? Because the timber is the only non-deteriorating construction materials. Steel corrodes, concrete cracks at one point. So only not deteriorating construction material is timber. But it has to be properly done. It has to be properly engineered. And one important thing I see the question here is we have to keep it away from moisture. Timber can get wet when we construct, and you know, our team here was afraid when we're building with Zazi, it was raining sometimes, and Wolfgang was there, don't worry guys, you know, this, if it can dry, there's no issue, right? They're building timber houses and CLT houses in Sweden and it rains all the time, or it snows, right? So as long as it can dry. So it's very important for us to keep the facade away from water, to keep the protected from water. And this is simply an engineering fact we have to do. Once it can, as long as it can dry, we can fix it. You can cure it. It doesn't have any issue, timber, with that. But if water stands for a long time or is enclosed, yeah, right, then it could become an issue, but which can quite easily be fixed, much easier than in a concrete and steel building, because you can open these parts quite easily and exchange them. So yes, it is a very durable material, and actually doesn't have a lifespan, because if you do it properly and if you treat it properly and if you maintain it properly, it should last forever.
I think I can, thank you. I can add two very small points to that. The general, like Sebastian said, the devil will be in the detail. So if you do the details correct, the material itself will always be good. And if I take some comparison, as I've seen in some questions, we are building, sure, for 15 years already buildings in Singapore, which the climate is quite similar to Zanzibar. Or also, for example, in Cuba, I think the first building we delivered something 18 years ago to Cuba, where you can also easily compare the climate there. You have 80% of humidity, you have 35 degrees, and it's raining once a day. And the buildings have no problems there.
Thank you. One more question, which I've seen, I think that's also interesting for our audience, a bit away from the construction technology. Sebastian, can you say something about the returns on investment, Burj?
Okay. That is for Burj now, especially, right? We always, it's a new building in Zanzibar. It's a new technology here. We have seen huge demand in rentals globally for houses and apartments here in Fumba. I don't want to overestimate, but I think you can have also in the Burj, we're expecting a solid rental yield, net rental yield between 3 to 5%. Now, this is maybe not as huge as you would think, but the yield is made out of two parts. One is the rental yield you can have from renting it out, and the other is depreciation. So the depreciation is very strong here. We believe that an apartment you can buy today for $100,000 will be worth $200,000–300,000 in just a few years. We've seen this clearly in all the other buildings we've put up so far. So we see at the moment in East Africa, we've looked at the rental yields and depreciation over the last 70 years. Many years, in 60 years, in the 70s or 60s in Dar es Salaam, in Nairobi, how the appreciation has developed, and we can see that you have a strong resilient appreciation of 10%. In Fumba, we have 15 to 20% per year. So adding a very modest assumption of a rental yield of 3 to 5% to a very modest appreciation of 15%, 10 to 15%, you have a solid 15 to 20% annual return of investment in a very modest conservative perspective. In a long term, Fumba town is a town development, and Leander lives in Brooklyn. I've visited him once there. If you would have invested into Brooklyn 40 years ago, when it wasn't as an attractive quarter as it is today, and you would have bought a house, the house, for instance, where Leander lives, you would have made a fantastic investment. So investing in urban centers and fast-growing urban centers with the economic figures like we have them here in Tanzania and Zanzibar, strong economic growth, a country full of natural resources, strong population growth, and an amazing, beautiful building like the Burj, you cannot go wrong. You will just be sad and regretting if you haven't done the decision today to invest into Fumba, into the Burj now, today.
Thank you very much. There are still many questions, but I think most of the questions and most of the issues we have addressed today. Obviously, there's many more technical issues which we can discuss. If you have, as participants, have not still have some open questions, please do contact us. If we cannot answer them by ourselves, we'll forward the questions to the experts who work with us on this project, so you get the most detailed answer on it. We will be presenting the Burj in and also upcoming conferences. We'll be end of February 28th at the Wood Conference in Cape Town. End of March, we will be in Portland at the Mass Timber Conference, also speaking together with Binderholz and OMT Architects about this landmark project in Zanzibar. Thank you all for joining in today. You see there's the, I'm sharing the contact information for where you can find out more about the Burj, burjzanzibar.com. If you want to get in touch with our sales team, there are the contact details. Thank you very much. This session will also be on our YouTube channel. Latest from tomorrow, we'll have it uploaded. We had a few issues. We wanted to actually go live on YouTube. That unfortunately did not work. I'm apologizing for that. I'm thanking my panelists, Wolfgang in Austria, Leander in New York, Sebastian here in Zanzibar. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you around the globe for joining us this evening. I wish you all a very pleasant evening, and we look forward to hearing from you again. If you're interested, any more further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much, and goodbye from Zanzibar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.